All right, hello and welcome to the screencast summary for week 6, January 17th, or I'm sorry, February 17th through February 21st, 2020. Week 6, I get to choose. I'm going to choose screencast again. One, because it is going to be the semi-mist or summary, summary tool of choice. But I'm actually enjoying this. I find it to be a little more interactive, and I think we'd be better at it than a Prezi or other types of slideshows. So we're going to keep going with this. So starting off, Monday was the holiday, President's Day. So what did I do during that time? Well, let's get some of that online work done. So starting with the 4-hour work week. Now, I posted about the 4-hour work week. I did that Monday midday, and I feel that I was pretty harsh on this summary, and it's been 4 or 5 days now. So I'm able to take a step back and sort of think about this is just a summary of a book that is available on Amazon. You see here, this is the full book, and I'm sure the full book has quite a bit more detail in terms of some of the concepts that are just sort of touched on in this little quick 4-minute read, not even really a 4-minute read. Again, when I first read through this, I was pretty harsh. I feel like the 3 things that this summary pulls out are, to be honest, just stinking plain old common sense. Okay, so number 1, be effective, not efficient. Well, sure, you can be working on a lot of stuff and getting a lot done, but if it's not serving your ultimate goal, then you're sort of just spinning your wheels. Or spinning your wheels. It's sort of like a wheel spinning in mud, right? That wheel is turning, and it is turning fast, and it's turning hard. So it's efficient. Boy, it's turning a lot of RPM. But if it's not pulling out of that muddy hole, then it's not very effective. So I understand that, and I don't feel like that's necessarily groundbreaking. I guess maybe for just starting an entrepreneur, and I certainly feel that this is more geared towards entrepreneurs and single business owners, not for your average hourly worker. From an hourly worker standpoint, being effective versus being efficient. Well, if I'm if I'm both, right? If I'm effective and I get all my work done, well, as an hourly employee, someone who's working for someone else, most of the time that boss, manager, supervisor just ends up giving you more work anyway. So if I'm an hour employee, I'm going, well, number 1 doesn't really help me that much, because I end up just getting the more work, usually the work that my lazy coworker hasn't done. But for the most part, to succeed, be effective, obviously. Okay, number 2, validate all your business ideas. Again, I feel like this is common sense. If you have this great idea and there's no market for it, then it's not such a great idea, really. So I don't think that if you have an idea and taking the time to see if there's a market, if there's an opportunity for it, I don't view that as necessarily groundbreaking. And number 3, I feel like number 3 is sort of a toss-up, because certainly you don't want to devalue yourself and sell a cheap product and go to that quantity over quality route. But especially in a competitive capitalist market, you have to balance that, right? Because somebody's going to come into that in that market space with a product that is similar to yours. Maybe you have a quality advantage, but as a consumer, maybe I'm willing to take a slight dip in quality over, in exchange for a cheaper price. So I feel like there's a balance. And so I wouldn't be so absolute as to say, go all full bore for quality. Don't worry about quantity. Now, again, this is just a few minute summary, just going over, going to the bigger book, and I'm sure the full book has deeper meaning. So I'm willing to give that the book a benefit of the doubt. The summary is it does what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be just a quick, easy read, 4-minute read. So overall, the ideas, yes, obviously they're pretty common sense to me. Not necessarily anything groundbreaking. Not necessarily anything that I'm going to take that, I'm going to use. They're things that I'm already using, and most people are already using. So that's my thought on that. And the next item that we discussed in the neat resources, again, this is online stuff, was the idea of 3D technology, getting into, now there's 3D TVs, 3D gaming, all this 3D stuff. I took a little bit of a contrarian's note here on the online posts and online forums. Um, when 3D first came out, there was a big push for 3D movies, probably about 10 years ago or so. It's been around for a long, long time, certainly, but there's a big push, I feel like, in major theaters for animated 3D movies. And to me, I hated them. And I hated them because every time I'd go to one of these, I would walk out with an absolute splitting headache. And it came to a point where I just said no more. Movies would come out, oh, in 3D, and I would try, I would make sure that I would go to their 2D version. I would not go to the 3D, stay away from it. And I feel like, 10 years ago, 2010, 2011, there was a big push and it almost felt like a fad. And I feel like the fad sort of died down. You don't see commercials running for, how to train your dragon 15 in 3D. You don't see that anymore. It's not a big selling point anymore. Certainly the Oculus and the different VR headset devices, that's, coming around. That's not something I'm very familiar with. So I posted a little bit about, the headaches that I was getting and some of the science that's gone into trying to fix that or address that. Um, some of the others, my co-students here, they put a little bit more into devices and things like that. But what I'm getting at here, some of the progress that's made on the medical side, and then reading some of the other articles that the other students put up. Here's one from KC. Now, KC is big into VR. He has an Oculus. He really enjoys it. This, to me, is the best resource of the week from my experience or from what I've seen so far. Because it gets me a little bit more, a little excited. It's kind of opening that window in my mind for maybe going back in and trying some 3D stuff. Again, I had shut it down. Had no part of it because of the way it would make me feel going to these movies. But in reading some of what I've read with the headache, addressing the headache issue, reading some of what PC has posted here with new VR experience, it's kind of maybe I'm ready to dip a toe into that water again. So we'll see. All right. So Tuesday was our big day for our bridge test, and we were certainly happy to have the GCU folk come in and test our bridge with us, and I feel like it did pretty well. When we looked at the numbers of what it did compared to KC and Tab's original design, I believe they're actually pretty comparable. So even with the cross-hatching, it did just about the same. Still, just a great, fun project that we enjoyed doing. It was great to see the GCP. I know they pushed to sell us pretty hard on their program at GCU, and I'm sure that they're doing great things. Not for me. Civil engineering is not something that they are offering right now. But I feel like some of the other students were open to it, maybe looking at it, knowing maybe. So that's good for them, and hope that the GCU program continues to thrive well. I'm not going to be pursuing that. Still nice to have them in, though. Wednesday, we had our interviews, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I think it's a refreshing way to sort of assess, we sort of have a midterm interview, finals interview instead of an exam. Again, I enjoy that way of assessment because in the real world, the professional world, that is how you are graded. That's how you are assessed, and either getting a job, hiring for a job, new interview, or when it comes time for a lot of companies do annual reviews, and that will decide a raise or a bonus. It's going to be based on not only your work product, but also you're going to have a review, and you're going to have to discuss. You have to kind of sell yourself in that review over what have you done for the year? What have you done for the company over that year? You have to show some competencies in that. So I enjoy that one-on-one practice a little bit, kind of getting used to how that works. Good experience. I've done a lot of interviews and not gotten the job a overwhelmingly majority amount of the time. So to have a little bit of interview practice was good for me. Thursday, we went to the final presentations of the Entrepreneur Innovation Challenge. There they all are, signing up for the picture. It's on Instagram here. Now, we had in class been talking quite a bit about, the prizes for this and getting an idea, and maybe next year being one of the presenters. And so I was definitely curious about, where's the bar? What bar are these guys setting? What quality of work are they putting out there? Can we compete? Do we have an idea that can compete with these? And so I was very curious to go and watch these guys compete. And I am very glad that I did. I was able to get there and watch all 8 presenters. And certainly it's easy to critique from the crowd, but I felt that with a good idea, we would be, or I would be at least, every bit as competitive as some of the best ideas that these guys had. Some ideas were absolutely fantastic. One that continues to jump out to me is Whitney's science lab, take-home lab donation system, nonprofit, where she's going to be trying to get some of these unused, then used and no longer needed science at-home science lab kits, get those donated to local Valley high schools. I think or just schools in general, is just absolutely fantastic idea. It really addresses a need, a two-way need, right? You have these high schools that need these lab kits, and then you have people who are using them. They use them for 1 semester, maybe 2 semesters, and they don't need them anymore. And certainly there is a guilt. She addressed that. There's a guilt about, what do I do with this material I don't need, but it has a value. I don't want to just throw it away. So hers stood out to me every single time. We met with her in the masterminding seminar in week 5, and her idea was just absolutely stellar. There are other great ideas, some ideas that seem kind of silly, that they were just kind of there to try, but the idea was fine. The execution wasn't really there. So they varied. They were sort of all across the spectrum in terms of quality, but really made me think, okay, I can think of something and come up here and compete and be competitive at least. So I think that maybe next year we might have to come up with an idea and at least get 1 credit hour in PVCC and try it out. So I was definitely inspired and definitely want to try it out. All right, and the last thing I want to touch on with our last, we have about 3 minutes here left in this free Screenomatic casting here. The last thing I want to touch on is our 3rd lessons for statics. Now, a lot of the statics so far have been sort of review of kinematics, the physics 121, mechanical physics, and things like that. Mostly, again, it's been review, but it has been, to me, a pretty worthwhile review, and I've been especially enjoying Jeff Hansen's videos. The videos don't quite line up with the text chapters, so I've sort of been playing these ahead. They're just a few minutes. Let me see, this one last one I watched is, so it's about 11.5 minutes long, not very long. But having these review videos have been wonderful. Going through 121 last year, maybe a little bit too fast for me. I'm a little older, got to go a little slower. So flew through it, did a lot in a short amount of time, for me at least. And so coming back now and reviewing, and it's sort of like a second layer to kind of reinforce everything. I feel like it's like a building comparison, right? You have that first layer, and then there's like a second reinforcement. And Jeff's videos have been good. The text as well has been very easy. I know there's a lot of textbooks that are really difficult to read and really dry and don't stick with you, but this statics book that we have, that you've put on Canvas, has been pretty good, pretty short, to the point, which has been helpful. And again, Jeff's videos have been a lot of fun because I can pause them and go back as much as I need to. So that's been the week. Man, it's week 6 already. So looking forward to, I guess that's week 7 now coming up. That's pretty quick. But otherwise, looking forward to getting back to a full week for week 7. Until next time.